Good morning, everyone. This is Julie McDonald with Microcom Technologies, and I'd like to thank all of you for attending today's webinar with Cambium Networks. Today's host is Bruce Collins, and he is their Senior Director of Product Line Management, and he'll be presenting today. If anyone has any questions, please submit them in the question box, and Bruce will answer them at the end of today's presentation. Bruce, I'm finished for now. Thank you so much for being with us today. Please go ahead and take it on over.
All right, great. Thanks, Julie, and thanks everybody for joining today. We're going to cover our 60 gigahertz solution and also cover some of the applications that people are deploying 60 gigahertz with. So many of you may not be familiar with that technology, so I will cover a little bit of the background, but I really want to cover is some of the ways that people are using this to solve some of their connectivity problems. We also have some new products that we'll talk about, a new V2000 client node for those of you that are familiar with the product. So hang in there if you're just wanting to get to the new stuff. And then also we have a bridge in a box solution, which I think you'll find pretty interesting. So we'll cover that as well. So let's go ahead and get into it. So one of the things I'd encourage you, if you're wandering around, take a look. 60 gigahertz networks are being deployed pretty much globally at this point. You'll see here some examples. One of these is in San Jose, California for a public Wi-Fi application. One of these is in Manchester, England for video surveillance. And then over on the right, you have some examples of customers deploying them for internet access for homes and small businesses. So you see them mounted on wooden telephone poles, on rooftops. And so you really will see these just about wherever you go, and we see this technology really taking off. So this is a proven infrastructure. We think of it as infrastructure because it's really a way to deliver high capacity, multiple gigabits per second where you don't currently have the ability to deploy that. So maybe my fiber nodes don't reach that far, or it's too expensive to trench fiber to repair that trenching. Or it's going to take too long to get the fiber. This is really a great alternative to do lots of capacity into these remote areas. So here you see some examples of a village in Western Canada where they're deploying internet access to all the homes in the village. You'll see a shopping mall up there in the upper right. That's a video surveillance application where they've gone in and they have fiber at the stores in the middle, but then they've put out many video cameras as well as adding some Wi-Fi access out into the parking lots. That's in Orange County, California. In the lower left, you see as we kind of move into the industrial verticals, that's a freight rail yard. It's a Class 1 freight rail company out in Montreal, and they're using it to do rail yard automation. So data offloads, some of the craft access as people are out into the yard, they can get access back to the infrastructure. So really a nice alternative. And you can imagine it would be very difficult to deploy fiber in that kind of environment. And then in the lower right is a service provider in Australia, in Perth. And this is really an example of a scaled network. This network is up close to 1,000 subscribers as a service provider organization, and they've injected lots of fiber points into this network to inject lots of capacity and resilience, because 60 gigahertz does give you that resilient meshing type of distributed network. So there you can see kind of service providers, enterprise, industrial, municipalities. It really is gigabit per second infrastructure for all these different applications. I'll go ahead and build that one out. So when we talk about multiple gigabits per second at a fraction of the cost of fiber, what really makes this attractive is that it is fast and simple. You don't have to do tower climbs. You can typically put this up with ladders or bucket trucks. You don't need to worry about trenching, all of the permits that go into trenching through hardscape-like parking lots and then repairing all of that damage. So you can deploy these in a matter of hours or days versus months or even years. I've heard some horror stories about getting fiber permits done. This all uses familiar tools. So if you're used to deploying a layer 2 bridge network, this all works as a layer 2 bridge network. That's how the vast majority of 60 gig CN-Wave is deployed. Uses PoE power. So these are all low power devices with PoE injectors, less than 25 watts per node. And then it's really a key point is that this is unlicensed spectrum. So those of you that aren't familiar with 60 gigahertz, this is unlicensed. You don't have to go to the FCC, but you can still deliver lots of capacity, and it does not interfere with 5 gigahertz. So if you have some congestion issues with your 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi or 5 gigahertz access networks, this is a nice adjacent frequency band up in the 60 gigahertz spectrum that won't interfere with your 5 gig. So lots of different applications and really simple and easy to deploy. Talking about how it's deployed, we look at a few different deployment models. You can do very simple point-to-point. I just want to connect two buildings like in the upper left diagram here. I connect point A to point B. With our new channel bonding feature, we can do 5.2 gigabits per second in this point-to-point link. So that means 2.6 gig in each direction for a total of 5.2 gig. In unlicensed spectrum, being able to push 5 gig between two buildings is really a game changer. For those of us that have been in the business for a long time, being able to deliver that much capacity over a kilometer is really pretty amazing. Down at the bottom, you see point to multi-point. This is, you might also refer to as hub and spoke. Here I have what we call a distribution node. It covers 280 degrees of azimuth or big wedge of pi, 280 degrees. Within that wedge, you can put up to 30 of these nodes in each sector, so a total of up to 60 nodes that you can array around that distribution node. Now, where this technology really shines is up in the upper right, that's that distributed mesh network. There I can take those distribution nodes and put them around, say, a dense area, whether it's an oil field or a municipality or a campus environment. You put those every 150 meters or so. You can build out a resilient mesh with a number of rings and cross points, and now I have a very high availability network with lots of capacity. This takes advantage of what's called the 802.11ay standard in the Terragraph ecosystem, and really we've taken that and proven the ability to scale this up significantly. So let me get into the new product. The V2000 is our newest client node, and I'll show you how this fits into the rest of the portfolio. But we're excited about this one because it really does kind of sit in between the existing 1000 and the 3000 for both range and capacity. So this has a 2.5 gig PoE input, a 2.5 gigabit PoE output. The output port is really nice because it provides power to, say, a video surveillance camera or a Wi-Fi access point. So really a nice capability to have a single cable install for video surveillance applications. Simplicity, it ships with the bracket, the PoE injector, the AC line cord. It comes with a 3-year warranty. You can plan it with our free link planner software. So really, and of course you can manage it with CN Maestro. So really a nice all-around package, really nice for enterprise customers that want to deploy these simple point-to-point links and multi-point or distributed networks. So this kind of gives you a view of where the V2000 sits within the overall portfolio or platform. On the left, you have that distribution node. That's that V5000 that has 240-degree sectors or 280 degrees coverage total. Those can talk to other distribution nodes to form a mesh, or they can talk to any or mix or match of these client nodes. And you see those 4 client nodes on the right, those can all talk back to a DN or distribution node, or they can be configured as point-to-point, and they just talk to each other. And I'll show you on the next chart what kind of ranges you can come to expect with those. But really the nice thing is you can select the appropriate client node for the situation that you're in. So here's a kind of a summarized selection guide and where the V2000 fits in. So more check marks is better. So when you look at the capacity, you'll see up to 1.8 in each direction for the V2000, 3000. The range goes up to a kilometer for point-to-point, up to almost 500 meters for point to multi-point. Also keep in mind that 60 gig does require line of sight. So you must have visual line of sight between point A and point B for some of these point-to-point links. And then you also see the V3000. So this gives you kind of that nice view. I think that maybe the other thing to highlight is that the V2000, because it has a wider wider antenna, you can actually make it it's actually much easier to align back towards the distribution node or towards a point-to-point link. It's much more forgiving for alignment. So again, for an enterprise customer that's maybe not into doing a lot of radio installs, this becomes a very simple point-to-point link and way to deploy this. I won't go through this in too much detail, but you can always come back and reference this. This is kind of a summarized data sheet, and you can also find the data sheet on our webpage at cambiumnetworks.com. The other variant of the V2000 and the V1000 I wanted to highlight is the 60 gigahertz bridge in a box. This is a solution that comes with 2 radios in the box already prepared at the factory. So as the owner of this box, you take it out, you put up at each end, it comes with the PoE injectors, and you plug it in, and you've got a layer 2 bridge, and you've got with the 1 GB, which uses the V1000, you've got a gigabits per second in each direction, and with the 2 GB that uses the V2000, you've got 1.8 gig in each direction. And you've got that extra PoE output port too, so really a nice solution for CCTV. So if you've got a customer or you're interested in just setting up a video camera that's remote, this is all plug and play, and it's all ready to go as you take it out of the box. We're also introducing a new radome for that V3000. So this is for areas of the North America where you're going to start seeing snow soon. I think some people started seeing some already. We encourage you to take a look at this radome on the V3000. So that's available now, and it can also sort of clip it on to existing V3000s. So if you're at all concerned about snow building up on that dish, then you can use this V3000 radome. I mentioned channel bonding. This is available today in the V3000. It really puts us kind of ahead of the competition in being able to take 2 60 gigahertz channels, combine them together, and get 5.2 gigabits per second. So 2.6 gig in each direction. Really, and this shows out over a kilometer, 1.2 kilometers link. So really a game changer. This is available on the V3000 today, and we expect that in early 2023 we'll be adding this functionality to the V2000 as well. So you'll be able to get that that same 5 gigabits per second in the V2000 as well. I just want to highlight that 60 gigahertz CN wave networks really take advantage of CN Maestro. Now you can manage, CN Maestro is our network management system that can either be deployed in user Cambium's cloud version or on-prem. But you can use the CN Maestro Essentials with no extra charge, no subscription fee. But we've really taken advantage of some of the benefits of the CN Maestro platform aligned with the 60 gig solution. So really some nice features coming that will use CN Maestro X, which is a subscription version of Maestro. Again, there's a free version that you can do everything you need to do with Maestro Essentials. But if you step up to Maestro X, you'll see some additional benefits. One of them is a northbound interface. If you're interested in integrating with your existing CRM tools or customer management tools or provisioning systems, you can integrate that. But let me show you some of the things that are specific to 60 gigahertz. Now, basic CN Maestro Essentials, you can see that you can build up these quite elaborate networks. Here's an example of a real network. You can see all of the resilient rings and the mesh capabilities. Those dashed lines are backup links, so you can even build in what is my primary link and what is my backup link for a given client node. You can kind of see that there's a client node with here in the middle that has the ability to talk to 2 different DNs, so you can visualize, here's my primary, here's my backup. When you add Maestro X, you pick up a number of nice visualizations. Here you can see each node has the ability, you can see what's the polarization of that node, you can see what the sort of coverage area is. You can turn on optionally the ability to see what's my signal level, in real time. You can see how much fade margin do I have, so I can see if there's any links that are going to be more susceptible to fade margin. So really a nice ability to visualize in a single glance what is happening with your network and updates that in real time. So that's available with Maestro X. On the planning side, if you're just doing simple point-to-point links, you may want to take a look at Link Planner. If you're doing really simple point-to-point links, you're just connecting two buildings, couple maybe 100 meters apart or less. You don't even need to do that. You just make sure you have line of sight. But of course, Link Planner is the tool that we recommend users plan all of their point-to-point links and their point-to-multi-point links. Works really well with 60 gig. That's a free tool. You can download it from Cambium's website. It's actually migrating to a cloud version, so you'll be able to just run it from any web page or web browser. So that's Link Planner. Sea and Heat, for those of you in North America, there's many parts of the country that have this LiDAR data, which is useful for creating really precise coverage predictions. And so I can go in there and it uses this LiDAR data to know very precisely where the trees are, where the buildings are. So your installers know exactly where to locate the radio. Your planners know exactly when that link is going to work or whether it needs to be adjusted or moved. So really a nice tool. That's a subscription service that Cambium has been offering and is quite popular and really useful with 60 gig. And then if you're wanting to get into these networks that have hundreds or thousands of nodes, I'd encourage you to reach out to Cambium. We can help you with some advanced network planning, and we continue to migrate these advanced tools into things like Link Planner. So watch for improvements as we go on sort of these larger scaled up networks. A couple of quick examples, and then of course, as Julie mentioned, we'll be happy to take questions. Connect Mobility is that village out in Western Canada. This was a village that they came in and were able to deliver gigabit speed in less than 3 weeks. So really a nice example of how quickly you can deploy this, and you can imagine how much faster this happens with than you would with fiber or any kind of wireline connection. Here's a couple of RV parks. These are places where another nice solution that can be delivered with 60 gig. I can go in and offer high-speed services to these RV parks where you have or mobile home communities, because you typically have more options for line of sight, and you can build out these really dense environments with lots of capacity. So RV parks and mobile home communities, caravan parks are very popular with this. Here's an example in Manchester, England. What I like about these pictures is that the actual radio is so small, you almost can't see it in the picture. But in each of these, there's a V1000 on that tower co-located with the cameras. And what they did here was they put this in for a political convention, but after they were so happy with it that they just left it in place. So this is one of our partners, Bedrock Networks, that deployed this with a combination of 5000s, you can see 15 V1000s, and they even used a couple of our PTP 670 radios here, which another good indication that you can kind of mix and match Cambium's technologies to solve these different connectivity solutions. I think I mentioned this before, so I won't drill into it more deeper, but here's a better picture of that freight rail yard I talked about earlier. And same thing, here's the bigger picture of that shopping mall. I think what's nice here is that they're initially putting it in for video surveillance, but there's so much capacity available that it's very easy for them to now extend to video surveillance applications. And the cost to do this by trenching through those parking lots would have just been, it's just not feasible. So wireless was really the way to go here on an existing parking lot. And then I think I mentioned Pentina. This is a customer that is deploying lots of endpoints and rapidly scaling this up. So just give you a sense of the scalability. I got a couple more in here, but I think I'm going to click ahead here in the interest of time. Video surveillance in historic districts. This is another one that I think is really interesting. This is Allentown, Pennsylvania historic area where they just were not allowed to deploy fiber at all because they can't disrupt or damage any of the streets in this area. So putting these small V1000s, kind of the size of your hand, on the side of a building, they were able to get this approved with minimum visual impact, no trenching, and now they have video surveillance in these historic areas, but you've got a lot of traffic for customers wanting Wi-Fi or customers where you want to provide that security with video surveillance. We also see a lot of applications in smart parking. So we mentioned that the shopping mall example, but there's many other ways to use this data. Once you have this infrastructure in place, I can start to do things like intelligent lighting, parking spot occupancy sensors, which help direct people to where there's empty spots. So you can really start to automate this. So there's a really good business case for retail complexes to deploy this. And remember that you're using 60 gigahertz as the backhaul rather than 5 gig. So you're leaving the 5 gigahertz spectrum alone to do Wi-Fi and other types of services. So really a nice complement and a nice solution for those of you that are into the system integration business. Another area that we find really growing is transportation and logistics, where you need to bring the network from inside the distribution facility out into these large areas, whether it's naval yards or maritime areas, or large parking lots, large staging areas for truck vehicles. Really a nice way to bring lots of capacity in a secure fashion out into those areas. So let me kind of summarize what are some of the differentiators of 60 gigahertz cnWave from Cambium. One is that we are fully certified. This is a standards-based technology, 802.11ay. Of course, we've put our unique radio industrial design and the link planner and all of the tools around it, but it does give you some comfort that this is based on a standards from the IEEE 802.11ay. You can deploy this with either IPv4 or IPv6. So while it's a very modern infrastructure and it has IPv6 networking inside, along with a layer 3 routing inside, you can deploy this with what you're very comfortable with, which is layer 2 bridges and IPv4. So I would say 90% of our customers are deploying with IPv4 and layer 2, but you have that option to go up to v6 and layer 3 in the future. Talked about the different client nodes. One thing I didn't talk about was the performance of the distributed network. This is really low latency. It's less than a millisecond latency per hop and less than a quarter of a second to reconverge. If any link goes down or fades or gets blocked, the network will reroute the traffic in less than a quarter of a second. So really fast reconvergence in a mesh environment. Talked about some of the tools. One of the things we also have is some graphical alignment tools, makes this really easy to align in complement with the automatic beam steering. And then I mentioned all the other different tools that we have, the CN Heat and CN Maestro and Link Planner. So I know this has been kind of quick. We went through kind of soup to nuts on 60 gigahertz. Really encourage you to check it out. We have different ways to get started. If you just want to do a point-to-point link, you can do that, and that's a very easy way to get started. You can buy a bridge in a box, and then we also offer some starter kits that give you a kind of a sampling of the different radios at a special price. So if you're curious about 60 gig but you've never actually deployed it, this would be a great time to get one of those starter kits and get going with 60 gigahertz. So Julie, I'll pass it back to you to see if there was any questions that popped in while we were talking.
Absolutely, there is, Bruce, and thank you very much for that wonderful presentation. And I've got several questions waiting here for you. Let's get started with the first one. Let's see. Will cnWave provide one, and it says Gbps speed?
So the question sounds like, well, can you deliver 1 gigabit per second services? So absolutely you can. We have many customers that are doing that. They offer 1 gig packages, 500 meg packages, 250 meg packages, different types of service levels. And that can be done in a point to multi-point environment for, imagine if you're a service provider, and then also in point to point. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is that the V1000 has a 1 gigabit interface on it. So you can do 1 gig in each direction, but because of the PHY it is absolute maximum 1 gig. So you might actually get like 930 meg or 940 meg instead of the full 1 gig. If you absolutely have to deliver 1 gig plus, then you can deploy our 2000, which has that 2.5 gig interface on it. So absolutely can deliver a gig.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Bruce. Next question here. Can you tell us about the warranties on these devices?
Yes, the warranty on all of this hardware is in most of the fixed wireless portfolio is 3 years. So you've got 3-year coverage on all the hardware. And then we also offer various levels of Cambium care for any kind of software support that you might want as well. So we really pride ourselves on giving you lots of options to reach out to Cambium, whether it's the partners like Microcom, or you talk to our team of sales engineers, or certainly our support team is there to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you so much. Next question. Will the VMwave devices support PTP, PMP, and mesh?
Yeah, that's one of the nice things. So cnWave, it's the same components. So you've got the V5000, the 3, the 1, and the 2, the 3, the 2, and the 1000. They all can be configured either for multi-point or point-to-point. So it's the same hardware. You don't have to worry about license keys or anything else. You take it out of the box. If I want to set up 2 radios as point-to-point, they're ready to go. If I want to set up multi-point, I enable that on the distribution node, and I'm ready to go.
Great, thank you. Next question here. What is the security with the cnWave devices?
So we offer different levels of different kinds of security features. So of course, all the management interfaces are HTTPS. It is there's security built into the AY protocols, and as far as authenticating links as they come online, that's all controlled at the E2E controller. So you've got authentication there. In the most recent release, v1.2.2, we introduced the 802.1x security on the physical ports. So if you want to do security there, you can do that as well. So lots of security features built in, and we have customers in the oil and gas industry, in certainly in the video surveillance and enterprise security area that have really kicked the tires on the security features and are quite satisfied with where that's at.
Excellent, thank you, Bruce. Next question. Are all the 60 gigahertz devices IP67 or IP68 certified?
Yes, all of these devices are IP67 and 68. So pull up the picture.
Great, thank you. Next question. Regarding the 60 gigahertz antennas, you mentioned, line of sight, but if you have a clear line of sight, what would be the range for those antennas?
Yeah, let me go to this picture here. So, maybe take a screenshot of this, or you can go on our webpage and get access to the selection guide. But you can see here,
Sure.
There's 2 rows. There's point-to-point range and point-to-multipoint range. So you can kind of see if you're using these just like V1000 to V1000, you can see it's 150 meters. If you're going V1000 to V5000, you can kind of use that point-to-multipoint row.
Great, thank you. And if we go to your website, obviously we can find all of this. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
CambiumNetworks.com. The other, CambiumNetworks.com. The other one I'd maybe take a look at is learning.cambiumnetworks.com. That's our learning portal. Tons of free educational videos, interactive training. If you go on there and search for cnWave Starter Kit, there are 4 short videos that take you through how easy it is to set up a point-to-point link, align the link, mount it on a pole. You really have some nice short videos there. So, and there's a ton of resources on that learning portal as well.
Thank you so much for that. That's interesting information that, of course, everyone would be interested in. Let's see, next question here for you. what would be the maximum distance for the CN wave, or does it differ for V1000 or V5000? I think we're on that page, right?
Yeah, so I think if you look at this page, again, there's two modes of operation, point to point or point to multi-point. So I think what's nice is the V2000. You can see that point to point range out to a kilometer, and these are typically ability to get a full gig in each direction out to those distances, and even taking into account the local geography, where you have it takes into account the rain fade in that individual location.
Thank you very much for that. Couple more questions. Next one. In regards to the PTP and the PTMP, does weather affect connectivity, lag time, or speed between nodes, even though it could be in line of sight?
Yeah, so that's one thing that you have to keep in mind with 60 gigahertz technology. There is a requirement to be line of sight, and you will have some system fade with rain. So one of the nice things that Link Planner does for you, though, is if you put in the latitude and longitude of the location where you're going to install the radio, it knows what the typical rainfall rate is in that area, and will automatically calculate that into the availability metrics. So if you say I want 4.5 nines of availability, Link Planner will build that in, and it knows what's sort of the worst case. You can see here at the bottom it says this is using a 32 millimeter per hour sort of maximum rainfall, which covers a vast majority of North America. Again, we have networks deployed in Penang, Malaysia, as an example, where they have a typhoon season with significantly higher rainfall, and they were able to design that network to work in those much more severe tropical storm environments.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Last question here for you. Are all of the devices, or do all of the devices, come with mounting point brackets?
So that's a great question, because there is a little bit of a mixture here. The V1000 and the V2000 come with the brackets in the box. So in the box you get the bracket, you get the PoE injector, and you just need to provide the Ethernet cable. The V3000 and the V5000, we have a couple different mounting options. So there's different mounting brackets you can choose. Again, Link Planner gives you those optional accessories, so you can create a full bill of materials, and it'll let you know what bracket to use, whether you want our standard bracket, or we have a high precision aligning tool that helps you align the bracket in very, very precisely.
Bruce, thank you so much for answering all of those questions for us today. And thank you to everyone attending. And if you have any further questions, of course, please feel free to contact your sales rep or email us at sales@microcomtech.com. And if you wish to view any of the products mentioned or shown here today, please visit us at www.microcom.us. And remember, this webinar presentation has been recorded and will be uploaded to our Microcom YouTube channel, so you can view all these wonderful details and products again. Bruce, thank you so much for being with us today. We've missed you. We haven't had you on for a while. And everybody.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, Julie. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll do this again, my friend. Thank you so much, and have a fantastic day.